welcome to another installment of Haunted Hangover Haunt Reviews. I'm Louie, and I finally got a chance to check out Busch Gardens' Howl-O-Scream for the first time. This is an event I've been wanting to go to for many years. If you're a listener of the show, you know I adore and love amusement park Halloween events. Stuff like HHN, which Halloween Horror Nights, if you don't know what that abbreviation stands for. We've joked about the crowds at the event getting worse and worse every year. We also talk about some of the good stuff too, and some of the events that are amazing, like Knott's Scary Farm, held at Knott's Berry Farm out in California. We've reviewed Dorney Park Haunt very early in Haunted Hangover's sort of existence. And we've also talked a lot of shit, especially last year when it comes to Six Flags Fright Fest. If you missed that episode, go back in the archives. Chris and I, we did a number on Six Flags Fright Fest. So if you're curious our thoughts on that, I highly recommend going and check out that episode. That was a fun one to dissect. But yeah, the location I went to for Howl-O-Scream, because there are two Busch Garden parks. There's one in Tampa, Florida, and then there's one in Williamsburg, Virginia. I went to the Virginia location. I always heard a lot about this event, mostly the location in Florida, and never the one in Williamsburg. I just think because of where they're located, more people tend to visit Florida because of Disney and Universal Studios, obviously. So I always heard people tell me about their experience at that park. And since I was planning a trip to Williamsburg, Virginia anyway, it made sense, it's the spooky season, to go visit Busch Gardens. I've always been a fan of that park. I haven't been to Busch Gardens since I was a kid. I went a couple times. My mom took me. So this was the first time as an adult going to this specific Williamsburg location. Now, one of the things that stands out to me, not even one of the many things that stood out to me, and I'll get into more detail as we continue on with this haunt review, is the price. Now, I don't want this to be a bashing of some other amusement park haunt events or Halloween events, but that was the first thing that I was in shock about when it comes to Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream in Virginia. So I bought 2 tickets. The price I paid, the estimated price, just rounding up, was around $140. 2 tickets. Now, if you're familiar with some other theme parks, what they do, they tend to separate the price of admission. So let's say you want to go to the park during the day. You want to go, park opens at 10, 11, and the park closes or turns into their Halloween event at 5. That's 1 ticket. And then 5 to midnight is the Halloween event. What's amazing about Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Virginia, because that's where the theme park is located, is it's one price. So you pay your 1 fee, you get to enter the park. During the day, you can get on some roller coasters or any other rides or shows that they have, and then walk through the haunts and scare zones and stuff at night. So that was a big plus for me off the top when I bought these tickets, because that's a very rare case these days. Most of these parks want you to pay 2 different admissions. Either you just go to the Halloween event or you just go to the theme park. Let's say you have small kids, and this park does offer sort of family-friendly Halloween activities during the day, which I didn't get to fully experience. I'll get into that as well. You would have to pay a separate ticket for each one. With this, 1 ticket, you're there all day. The day I went was a Friday, so the park was only open from 2 to 11 p.m., but that's still a solid amount of time to experience everything the park has to offer for the most part, especially in the on the Halloween side of things. So I just mentioned the family-friendly activities during the day. So since I went on a Friday, they do have something called Sesame Street Spooktacular. which wasn't happening when I visited. I did see Sesame Street, but no Halloween stuff was going on. I think from what I read, they do give out candy to kids during the day, and the Sesame Street characters are dressed up in costumes and dancing and taking pictures. I don't have kids, so this wasn't a priority. This wasn't high on my list when visiting Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream. They do also have something called Monster Street Party, which happens during the day. I missed this entirely, but from what I gather reading their website, you meet monsters and they're dancing and you're in the street and you can party with them. I didn't even see this, so I don't know if it's just the time I went, the 2 to 11 p.m. slot, or they just don't do it on weekdays. Maybe Saturdays and Sundays. The park is open earlier. I think I saw it opens at like 10 or 11. So I'm assuming these family-friendly activities are happening during the day. So if that's something you want to experience, make sure you go on a weekend date and you get there when the park opens, just so you have time to experience all that, plus the haunts in the evening. One more thing I want to point out, and something I want to highlight about Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream, at least in the Williamsburg, Virginia location. So I went, it was October 3rd, not that far from the time I'm doing this recording. I waited max 15, maybe 20 minutes to enter a haunt. Some of the haunted attractions, I literally walked right into them. No wait. I think the most I waited was, like I said, 15 or maybe 20 minutes. And that was at, the later end of the night, I guess when the park got busier. Granted, I was already in the park from opening. So when Howl-O-Scream started, me and my wife went straight to the nearest haunted attraction because we're so used to what happens at Halloween Horror Nights and Fright Fest and Not Scary Farm, where as soon as they open the park to everyone, the lines just form. And we were in shock. Just the waits. There weren't even waits. We walked past haunts that we had already passed through, and there weren't even waits listed. So I'm guessing, just a word of advice, if you're planning on going to Busch Garden Howl-O-Scream, Virginia again, because I do have something to say about the Tampa location, the Florida location, go early in the month. I did hear people talk about how, I think the second or third week of October, it gets really busy. So this was just an anomaly. When I went, we barely waited. Like it was almost, we were done with the haunts by, I don't know, park closed at 11. We were probably done by 8 o'clock. So we had time to see shows. We had time to get some of the specialty cocktails that they had to offer. We were able to take our time, which is sort of a luxury when you go to these things, because again, just being someone that goes to them so often, it was just strange to just be able to take our time. It was nice. I wish I could say the same about some other amusement park Halloween events. So if you want a nice calm evening, go early in October, late September, because this event does run in September as well. And yeah, get there when the park opens and enjoy a kind of peaceful romp through haunted attractions instead of some chaos that some of these other places have to offer. Now, the park is decorated for the Halloween season, and it does feature scare zones, which is kind of a universal term. Busch Gardens calls them terror tories, and there are shows as well. So the way Busch Gardens, Virginia, is separated, it's different European countries. So you've got like Germany and France, etc. And each one of these areas were decorated with their own little flair for the Halloween season, which I really enjoyed. You don't really see it. Like during the day, you can kind of see the stuff that's hung up, but the lighting effects and stuff really help all the kind of physical props spread throughout the park pop, and it just adds an obvious atmosphere to the park. So since I was there during the day and night, I was able to kind of see the transition and see like, oh, I see what they were trying to do here. And at night, you can see it in its full full glory, I guess, the way they set everything up, the way it was the intent behind the effect. Some highlights for me were the Ireland land, where they had several creatures pinned to different examination tables. Think Frankenstein, sort of the lab table, but they were upright. They even had a photo op where you could take your own picture on one of these tables. And obviously I couldn't resist, and I took one myself, looking like a fool. The New France area, I believe is what it's called, was decorated nicely as well. They had these jack-o'-lantern scarecrows strung up everywhere, rows of floating pumpkins lined up on top of the buildings. Just sort of a Halloween wonderland, what you would expect to see in a fall setting, especially with the scarecrows and the strung up pumpkins. And then obviously fog is pumped throughout the entire park. So that's always a plus. We all of us Halloween fans, we love a good fog machine. So when you can barely see what's in front of you due to all the fog, that's always a good thing when it comes to a haunted attraction. They also had two really cool paths that you cross while navigating through the park. One being a tree-lined trail filled with red lights. Kind of reminded me of the Tales from the Dark Side intro, just kind of the way the lights were hitting, even though it's red and the Tales from the Dark Side is kind of inverted white color, but still the way the trees looked and the red kind of highlighting them and all the details and the contrast looked really cool. I dig that path that we passed through that at least 3 times because, again, we had so much time to walk through the park. We were able to see things multiple times. My other favorite path, more so a bridge that you cross, is full of cobwebs. And when you get a little closer and you cross the bridge, it's inhabited by spiders, large, giant spiders hiding in every corner. Another really cool kind of just set piece. It's interesting because some of the trails had theming and some didn't. Like there was this other bridge we crossed a couple times where I think the gimmick was they had a speaker underneath the bridge. Fog, looms over it. And then you hear what I assume is like a troll eat somebody and then burp. So it's like you hear a scream, you hear a swallow, and then you hear a burp. It was just kind of like every little path you cross, they added something more so than others. Like that spider bridge was probably one of the coolest things along with the red tree line trail. Another really cool lighting effect that the park offers is they have these projected images on buildings and on the ground of these neon jack-o'-lanterns, witches, black cats, skulls. I think I even saw really sort of retro looking, and I've never seen another Halloween event at a theme park utilize this sort of effect. I've seen lighting on buildings and stuff like that, but never something that feels so nostalgic and just kind of warms your heart while you're, entering foggy corners and dark corridors and stuff, and scare actors are jumping out at you. It really kind of added to the atmosphere in the park, and I appreciated that. They could have easily just blasted some red light on a building, but the fact that they placed a special light to project these images was amazing. So the park has 6 territories, the scare zones I mentioned, as you venture through the park. I'm going to keep it real. Be very honest here. I've never been this big scare zone guy at any of these parks. A lot of times they're void of any scare actors when the sun is still out because, it's October. So a lot of times the sun is setting as the event is happening. It kind of kills the atmosphere they're trying to achieve. So it really just depends on the time you pass through them. And this goes for like all of them. I don't think I've ever been to a park where I'm like, that was an amazing scare zone. And in this case, a territory. But to rattle off the ones they have, there's 6 of them. You've got Bavarian Bloodshed, Disc Grotesque, Wicked Wonderland, Stalker Street, Ripper Row, and Feast Evil. So the ones that stood out to me were probably disc grotesque, which I'm probably butchering that little pun on grotesque, and discotheque, disc grotesque. Nightclub theme. They had loud music playing. They had a 12-foot skeleton DJing, which was a funny visual. Several zombie creatures dancing around with a few strobe lights and neon lighting effects going off. It was cute, not scary. I enjoyed the effort put into that specific one. The other one I kind of dug was the Stalker Street. Because that took place in the New France area I mentioned earlier that felt very kind of autumn Halloween with the scarecrows and the jack-o'-lanterns. I remember a bunch of crow creatures. There were these dudes and people dressed up as these big crow monsters, and they were going at it. Like, they were running at people, chasing people. I heard several people scream because they'd hide around a corner and then emerge, and it's just this giant skeleton crow jumping at you. They were giving it their all. So props to the crow monsters at Stalker Street. And the last one, not going to knock it too much because, again, it's just a scare zone. They had Winter Wonderland. It was kind of, they need to fix this scare zone. This needed, I don't know if it was the day I went, but it needed a little something extra. This was basically empty when I passed through it the 2 or 3 times that I did, but it's supposed to be a Christmas themed territory. They had a Krampus style monster. There was a guy there, kind of like the Krampus. Every time I walked by, he was taking pictures with people. I saw one killer elf, which was disappointing because how you can't get like 5 killer elves in this area if you're supposed to be this scary, Christmas wonderland. The coolest thing in this area, there were 2 cool things. One time we walked through it, they had that like foam effect that looks like snow falling. So that was unique. I've seen that effect in other places, but it was cool to see it in this land. And they had an evil snowman figure that I took a picture with during the day. Because I saw it during the day, so I knew it was already there. And we walked past it at night. I thought it would do something, but it didn't do anything. It was just a static figure. Those were kind of the cool things. I really wish they would put a little more effort in that one because it had some potential. Especially, it's Halloween. We're not thinking about the Christmas season right now. But if you're gonna do a Christmas scare zone, let's put some more killer elves in there. Let's darken it a little bit. Let's maybe put some creepy Christmas music, which I think they might have had, but it was so subtle and you hear other people screaming and stuff. You didn't really make out kind of like a holiday horror wonderland. I don't know. Could have used a little something else, a little oomph there in the winter wonderland. The rest were whatever. Well, like I said, I'm not a scare zone guy, so I kind of just passed through them. People jumped out, and I was like, all right, let's get another drink. Let's make it to a show. Let's go to a haunt. Now, speaking of shows, I did get a chance to check out 3 of the 4 shows that Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream has to offer. I missed the Monster Romp on Ripper's Row. I just had no time, and it seemed like solid stuff. It's like a, Jack the Ripper themed, I guess, like music making drum show or something from what I read and saw on the, not the brochure because we had the app because we know they no longer give out brochures at amusement parks. But I did see on the app that it was like, again, like sort of a UK, England, Jack the Ripper themed dance show. So the 3 shows I did get to see, the first being Skeletons in the Closet. It's inside of the Oktoberfest / quick service building. This allowed me to grab something to eat and watch the show. It's a simple premise. You've got this girl who falls asleep and dreams about this group of singing and dancing skeletons who party with her. They come out from underneath her bed, which is a cool effect. They're covering pop songs, sort of. I heard some Alice Cooper in there, heard some Metallica, some Fleetwood Mac. It wasn't offensive, but kind of the standard you'd see at an amusement park Halloween event. Not to take anything away from these people. They were super talented. They were great singers. They can totally dance better than me. But I think I've seen a show like this at every Halloween event. So If you've seen one, you sort of have seen them all. This was probably, again, not knocking it because I did enjoy it, my least favorite of the three shows. Next was Spirit Celebration. This was a fun little show involving a gentleman whose only dream is to be famous, and with the help of his assistant and a few audience members that participated in the show, they conjure up all kinds of craziness with spirits to make his dream a reality. So this guy's using us, the audience members, and talking to demons or ghosts or some shit to become famous. He's sacrificing us for fame. The two leads in this show were great. Literally, two people are controlling the crowd and doing everything. Really charismatic. The audience volunteers that I, saw, I almost thought they were plants because they were so involved. But when I saw them go back with their families, I was like, no, these were real people. They were into what was happening in the show. There was a little girl. She looked like she was over the moon just kind of interacting with these actors. It was just fun. Overall, the music, the singing, I did see it during the day. And I heard from people after the fact that it looks cooler at night because of the lighting effects. So I didn't get to take in the show fully because the sun was still out. But that didn't really kind of hinder anything for me. I still had a really good time with Spirited Celebration. And last but not least was Fiends, which in my opinion was the best of the bunch. This is the more adult-oriented show. If you've been to Halloween Horror Nights the last 15 to 20 years, you're probably familiar with the Bill and Ted's Halloween Adventure. This is sort of Busch Gardens' take on that. It's their own risque show, not suitable for all ages. Kind of with a touch of Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I appreciated because that's a Halloween staple for me personally. This is full of scantily clad women, innuendos galore, a bunch of pop culture songs, which, you're going to expect, like kind of the most popular songs today and really kind of pop culture songs from the past. And I enjoyed that they had a lot of like references to stuff happening in the world today, a lot of political stuff. So if that upsets you, this might not be the show for you. I giggled at a lot of the kind of like references they made. The plot involves a Dr. Frankenstein-esque type character who wants to bring an alien to the show, to Earth, as his greatest experiment. Both the doctor and he has like a sidekick, an Igor, they crushed it. They were so good in the show. Charismatic is a word, again, I would use to describe them. They owned the crowd. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was singing. Everyone was clapping. Everyone was dancing. That guy that played Igor, at one point, he was like twerking while we were leaving. The show ended. He was on stage by himself twerking. So I commend him. Fantastic job. It was hilarious. I really enjoyed it. And if you go to Howl-O-Scream and can only catch one show because the park's busy or whatever, I recommend catching Fiends. If there's one show you do watch, Fiends is the Halloween show at Howl-O-Scream. And finally, what we all go to these events for, the haunted houses. Now, if you're looking for IPs or a Conjuring house or like a Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, Child's Play, whatever, Dawn of the Dead, Walking Dead, whatever IPs or Stranger Things, whatever IPs are popular these days and what gets people to these parks, you're not finding that at Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream. Just a warning. All the haunts, original content, which I loved. Breath of fresh air. I don't need whoever the latest Netflix show is attacking me in every haunted house I go through. So I just appreciated them putting their own spin on just unique monsters and creatures and making us enter these worlds. I'm so kind of over the IP thing that I kind of want to go back to just unique experiences at these Halloween amusement park events. I know the IPs bring people in, but you don't need them all the time. So the first haunt, and I'm going to start with the one that I think all Halloween events have one of these. The Killer Clown haunt. Not Killer Clowns the movie, just a haunt with clowns that want to kill you. This one was called Clown Town. Pretty standard clown haunt, with a good chunk of it taking place outside, but you enter and exit these small huts that they had built, and each one is themed to something zany involving the clowns. This didn't feel like a traditional killer clown haunt. They definitely tried to change things up, especially when it comes to this tired concept of killer clowns. It was nice to try to do like that. They tried to do something different. One room, which I felt was unique, was filled with rubber faux chickens hanging from the ceiling all over the walls. They even had a carousel that looked like chicken skeletons for whatever reason. They had a chicken room. The visual of entering a chicken room, and I think I heard some clucking too while I was in there, was amazing. They also had an area that was set up like carnival games. You see it at a state fair, but instead of prizes, there were corpses, gory, bloody corpses pinned to the wall. I like that detail. It's pretty gross, pretty nasty. The clown scare actors too inside of this haunt were giving it their all, so props to them. I did go through this one while the sun was setting, so there was a little bit of brightness for the exterior portions. So it did kind of kill some of the immersion, but it was still a good time. It didn't affect it. I appreciated all the scare actors. There was a lot of clowns in this. And I know most people are scared of clowns. I'm not. I'm sure I've said it on the show before. So if you're scared of clowns, this haunt will scare the shit out of you. Again, good time. So next up was, and I hate to say this, the most disappointing of all 5 haunted attractions at Howl-O-Scream. I was looking forward to this one the most because of the subject matter. You don't see too many Wolfman or werewolf theme haunts, so I was super stoked to see Howl-O-Scream had one, and I was bummed when I left. So basically, you're inside of a warehouse, like a warehouse / research facility, and the plot, I think, is supposed to involve a werewolf being captured. You see this werewolf early in the haunt. It's a dummy, and there's a woman running tests on it with a syringe. And it's insinuated that that werewolf has broken free and is wreaking havoc in the facility. So you see a bunch of soldiers, you hear alarms, you see, for some reason, and this actually I got a little kick out of this one. For some reason, you see a bunch of janitors dead or injured. I saw at least 2 or 3. For some reason, they have these like scare actors in these closets with a mop holding their stomachs and wounds and stuff. And I just thought it was really funny to see a bucket and a mop at least 2 or 3 times while I was going through this haunt. I don't know why that stood out to me. It was just a weird visual. And my main issue with this one is the lack of the werewolf. You see him in the beginning, and then you don't see the werewolf again until the very end, which is a great effect because I believe he comes out of the wall. It's a person controlling either a puppet, and he comes out of the wall. It's awesome, but you don't see him. The werewolf should have made at least 2 or 3 more appearances because he's free. Just very, very disappointing. It also felt super empty. There weren't a lot of scare actors, a lot of dead spaces, nothing happening. Could have used a couple of like really cool set pieces and more werewolf action. That was my main issue with it. It just felt hollow. Very disappointed. After that was Bloodshot. This is a vampire-themed haunt. It's supposed to be a bar and grill. Think From Dusk Till Dawn. That's kind of the vibe I got from it. I'll say this now. This was probably the most detailed of all the haunts, with some probably the most detailed. There was one other one I'm going to get to in a second that was maybe one notch below this. This one, amazing recreations of an actual bar. I dug that there were bottles behind the bar with different blood types, and there was actually a scare actor there. I was holding a Howl-O-Scream cocktail cup because one of the souvenir cups, and she saw I was holding it, and she yelled at me and said, "No refills for you." It was great. After you go through the bar, you even go through a recreation of a really shitty bathroom you'd see at a bar. Like just a grimy, nasty bathroom with stalls, stickers all over the toilet stalls and the walls. Then after that, you turn a corner and you enter a bunch of catacombs. So like where the vampires reside. They're using the bar and grill as a front, and now you're entering their lair. And here you see, I saw a female victim screaming for help. Got a glimpse at a head vampire and his throne. He was kind of just sitting in the throne. He got up, walked around the room, looked at us. Just perfectly themed haunted attraction. The vibes, 100% on point. And again, it was cool to kind of see a haunt take an existing theme. You think of From Dusk Till Dawn, True Blood, even though these are sort of dated references at this point in 2025. But it's cool to see them take that idea and put their own spin on it. Plus, they use the Escape from Poseidon building. The ride was closed for the Halloween season because of the event. So you enter the Escape from Poseidon water ride and you go through some of the queue and then into the haunt. So that was kind of cool. I was bummed to not be able to get on Escape from Poseidon. Is it Poseidon? Oh, no, Pompeii. Sorry, correction. Escape from Pompeii. Sorry, guys. I was bummed that I wasn't able to get on Escape from Pompeii. Next up was Culinary Diner. This was a diner-themed haunted attraction with a heavy, and I mean heavy, emphasis on bugs, specifically roaches. I'm talking every corner, every nook and cranny of this haunt had some sort of gross, disgusting larva or something on the walls. You've got pest control guys inside spraying you in the face with air. You've got, because this is like a period piece haunt, so it's supposed to be retro 50s. So you hear this like 50s style music playing throughout and skipping. There's scare actors dressed as giant bugs. This was probably the dirtiest looking of all the haunts. Plays into the whole bug thing. There were like empty containers of garbage and food and stuff on the floors. So it was really just gross. The grossest. That's a better way of articulating it. The grossest haunted house of all of them. They use that kind of standard effect you see at most haunted attractions where they use a lighting effect to make it seem like bugs are crawling. Giant water bugs about this big. It's just nasty, nasty, nasty work when it comes to what this haunted house. Dare I say, I'm not scared of bugs, but kind of like the clowns, if you're scared of insects, don't go into this haunt. You're going to cry the entire time you're walking through it. I dug it. I dug it a lot. This is, when I rank them all, this one will be very high on the list. And last but not least, we had Death Water Bayou Morte, I believe is how you pronounce that. Forgive me if my pronunciation isn't right there. This was a New Orleans voodoo bayou themed haunted attraction. So you're seeing a lot of voodoo priestess type stuff throughout the haunt. There's a main character named Madame Morte. Her name is in the title of the haunt. This was really cool. So they had someone portraying her when you enter the haunted attraction. And then when you exit, I think what they did was they cast people that look alike. So at the very end, she greets you in the beginning and then says bye to you as you're exiting. Almost an identical match. I almost thought it was the same person. It might have been, unless there's like a secret door, but the way there's crowd control, there's no way it was the same person. But they cast people that looked identical. and it really helped with the immersion. Kind of like she's saying hi and bye to you while you go through. There was another set piece here where you enter a room, there's a coffin, smelled like a funeral home, and there was a guy there who would jump out, and he actually caught me, which I usually don't get caught. And he said, "Welcome to your funeral." He jumped out because you're kind of fixated on the coffin and some of the other creepy imagery next to you. I really dug this one a lot too because of the sort of in and out nature of it. So this too, like the Clown Town Haunted House, and in the fact that I was able to go through it at night, at this point the sun had set, I was able to take in more of the kind of exterior portions and then leading into the smaller huts, the set pieces. It worked a little bit better because of that. When it comes to sort of these style of haunts, because this isn't a theme that I've seen this theme in other haunted attractions before previously. So you get a lot of like these neon skulls plastered all over the walls and in different rooms. There was one funny visual that you see about 3 or 4 times in Deathwater Bayou Morte, is a plant. So they had like this dead flower with light shining on it. And I'm telling you, see this same plant. I'm guessing it has something to do with the story and I just didn't catch it. You see the plant sitting there in front of you 4 or 5 times. And I was like, what is the deal with this plant? I was trying to figure it out. Was it just supposed to be, was it supposed to symbolize something? I didn't catch it. I just kept saying, there's that plant again. There's the plant. A couple times. I was amused by it. My one little con with this haunt, I will say it did feel a little empty outside of the actors portraying Madame Morte. There was maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 scare actors throughout, kind of doing double duty, it felt. So this one could have really used a couple more heads dressed up as creatures or something to jump out at you. Now, if I had to rank all 5 haunted attractions at Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream, from least to best, it would go like this. Unfortunately, and you guys probably already knew this, Werewolves, The Wolf's Revenge, bottom of the list. Number 4, I'd put Deathwater Bayou Morte. Again, could have used some more scare actors. Number 3, Clown Town, a unique clown haunted attraction. I appreciated them trying to change it up. Number 2, Culinary Diner. Hate me some bugs, so that did the trick. And the most immersive, and in my opinion, the best, Bloodshot Bar and Grill. So my overall thoughts on Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream, located in Williamsburg, Virginia. It was, and I kind of teased this earlier, it was really cool to go to one of these events and not feel the stress and anxiety that I'm not going to be able to experience everything. Even though I missed one show, I still feel like I was able to complete most of what they had to offer and enjoy a meal, enjoy some shows, entertainment, have a couple of cocktails, take my time going from area to area, scare zone to scare zone, take pictures, take videos, sit down, take a load off at some points and not be worried about getting to the next thing because of the crowds. So I really appreciated that. If you're looking for a more laid back, again, when I went, a more laid back Halloween haunted attraction, amusement park experience, Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream is the place to go. Now, I have heard, I have not been, that the Tampa location is a little different. So the Florida Busch Gardens works a little differently. I've heard the crowds are a little bigger over there. Plus, they charge an extra ticket for the event if you want to go during the day and at night. So that was my experience at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Virginia. So if I ever go to the Tampa event, if I ever go to the Florida Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream, I might be coming back here in the future and complaining how different it was from the Virginia version. But from my experience, I think it's totally worth it. The price point was great. $140 for 2 tickets. No need for a fast pass. It was just a great night of Halloween activities. And I'd highly recommend it if you're someone like me who loves Halloween haunt events at amusement parks. Busch Gardens, Virginia, Howl-O-Scream is the place to go. So those were my thoughts on Busch Gardens Howl-O-Scream, located in Williamsburg, Virginia. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Blue Sky at Haunted Hangover. Head over to hauntedhangover.com, where you can find links to everything, including our Patreon page, where you can gain early access to episodes and bonus content. Rate and review us. It'd be greatly appreciated. And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is more booze. Catch you guys later.